regionally and locally. Some of the youth leaders are here to my left, your right. And as an American Baptist pastor, speaking as a Christian, my scripture is full of being led by young people. In my ancestral scripture from the Torah, we're told of young people like Jeremiah who are called to speak God's word of reform and recreation. And then, of course, the New Testament is full of messages of let the children come and know that the things of your youth are precious but must be challenged. And one of the great gifts of doing this work, particularly being led by the young people, is a chance to be challenged as an adult. As an adult ally, someone who's chosen to stand with them and not tell them what to do, but figure out how to get done what they've asked of us, which is really what we should all be doing. And as a person of faith, I feel like those things are intertwined and bound up together, and that we all find our own way to do that, to find what grounds us and what guides us. And so in that spirit, I'm going to pass the mic on to Nick, who's been one of the most faithful, using my language, one of the most faithful young people leading us through the last the last period of creation of this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. My name is Nick. I'm 24. I grew up in Denver, and right now I'm one of the coordinators for the Sunrise Movement in Boulder and Denver. On Friday, Sunrise joined International Indigenous Youth Council, 350 Colorado, and many other incredible organizations. And we got 7,500 plus young people and our allies to show up, march on the Capitol, demanding a Green New Deal and climate action now, because we can't wait anymore. I am tired of being told to wait. I am tired of being told that we need incremental solutions, because that's the only way anything gets done. That was okay 30 years ago, but our time is up now. We need radical change, and we need it now. We are out of time for our elected officials and politicians to cling to the status quo and support incremental policies while our planet is burning and our house is on fire. The science is clear. We need to shift away from all forms of fossil fuels to 100% clean and renewable energy by 2030. We are in a crisis, and we need solutions on the scale of that crisis. That is why Sunrise, along with so many other organizations, are pushing for a Green New Deal, because a Green New Deal recognizes the scale of this crisis. We cannot wait just for national legislation, however, to start us on that path. Colorado needs to be a leader and set an example for what this transition should look like. Incremental policies when it comes to the climate crisis are a form of climate denial. Each new fracking permit issued is a form of climate denial.
Yeah. Yes.
How can we continue to allow fossil fuel companies to profit at the expense of our future?
We can't.
Yes. How can we value lining the pockets of oil and gas industry executives more than the health and safeties of communities in Colorado like the one we are in today?
We can't.
We can't.
Because when the air we breathe is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When the water we drink is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
Thank you. Sophia? I'll trade you.
Hi, my name is Sophia Shivers, and I'm a high school senior living in Niwot. As someone born and raised in Colorado, I've grown up aware of the destructive impacts of the growing fracking industry, and I am tired of hearing about new wells going up around Colorado under a progressive and supposedly climate championing administration. The lack of action to address the climate crisis from governments here and across the nation is creating an enormous amount of anxiety in my generation. Yes, the climate crisis is taking a toll on our future and our physical health today, but it is also taking a massive toll on our mental health. I'm here today to tell you that we are already dangerously behind and that we have no time to waste. As you well know, the land and resources of thousands have become poisoned by flowback water containing dangerous pollutants. For many years, we have had concrete evidence of the growing impacts of fracking, and we have yet to see a measurable piece of legislation that truly halts drilling in Colorado. Although fracking has created a temporary oil and gas boom, and in turn decreased the price of oil and gas, the process has poisoned our communities and released massive amounts of methane into the atmosphere at a time when we need to be cutting back on emissions. You cannot put a price on the irreversible damage done to communities and ecosystems. The Colorado government has allowed and continues to allow an increase in fracking without adequate consideration of the risks and implications to local populations. They disregard the importance of data that risks potential profit again and again. Consequently, the government puts the profits of the fossil fuel companies over the health, safety, and welfare of their constituents. Maryland, New York, and Vermont have banned all fracking in their states, and so have countries including France, Bulgaria, Germany, and Scotland. This shows us what is possible and that Colorado can do the same. I'm here today to ask for one thing: an immediate halt to all permitting and licensing for fracking and fossil fuel companies in Colorado. My future and the future of my generation lies in their hands. I implore you, please do not allow the profits of fossil fuel companies to come before the survival of my generation and generations to come. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chanello Tyler. I recently graduated Morehouse College. I just actually recently moved to Colorado, but in Atlanta I was doing work centered around energy equity. I want to begin with a quote by Howard Thurman, philosopher, author, and theologian. Howard Thurman said, "Do not be silent. There is no limit to the power that may be released through you." So today, we have gathered here to continue to break silence and help keep justice intact. We are here today to break the silence and convey that economic growth should not be prioritized above sustainability. We are here today to break silence and bring awareness to the several communities where marginalized individuals and people of color have been manipulated and oppressed by oil and gas companies. What good is economic growth if we destroy the most valuable parts of our society? What good is economic growth if we don't have a world to leave behind for our children? This week on the news, I noticed a peculiar headline, which isn't really that surprising with the news recently. It said that Trump mocks climate youth activists. To me, to do such a thing requires an unusual amount of audacity. To mock others while we are making a mockery of ourselves. By not putting a stop to fracking. By not putting limitations and rules in place to regulate oil and gas companies. By not transitioning to renewable energy sources. By not supporting the Green New Deal or SB 181. If we listened to the earth, she would say something my mother used to say. She used to say, "I brought you in this world, and I could take you out." And I think that's what the earth is saying to us right now. But I'm also reminded of a mother's forgiveness and love for her children. And maybe, just maybe, if we straighten up our act and get things together, Mother Nature will forgive us. Thank you.
Thank you to Nick, Sophia, and Chanello for speaking. Sorry, guys. Thank you to the youth for speaking out. This is really their future that's at risk, and that's why we're out here to support you guys. So thank you so much for being here. My name is Ann-Lee Foster. I'm the Communications Director with Colorado Rising. I want to speak to you guys a little bit about the COGCC process thus far, how we're feeling about it, part of the reason that we're out here, holding signs that say uphold SB 181. So the first thing that I want to talk about is just last week, Jeff Robbins was on a phone call with industry reps, and he was boasting to the industry that we are back up to pre-181 permitting levels. So he said that we're up to about 30 permits a month that are going through this system. Well, it's 30 permits a month. It's a lot more wells, so there is a difference. But the number that he used is 30 permits a month, and these are wells that are being permitted with no evaluation of cumulative impacts, with no consideration for climate, with no protective health and safety rules as the law requires. This is absolutely unbelievable. Also, Robbins has stated that his objective criteria, which is the current law of the land, which is what he's using to evaluate the permits right now, didn't have any scientific data or health studies used in developing it. It's unbelievable to think that these are just arbitrary laws that he's using right now, considering this massive rule change that has happened at the state level. I mean, where is Casey Becker and Steve Finberg? This is unbelievable. They should be making sure that this law that they passed is being executed in the way that they thought it would be. For comparison's sake, for those 30 wells, the California governor recently stopped all permitting in the state of California because they had gotten up to 35 wells a month for a much larger area, the entire state of California. And we have this huge rule change in place, and we are permitting at even higher square footage rate than California is, even though we're supposed to be protecting the public's health and safety. We're supposed to be protecting the climate. Another thing that we have noticed is that the COGCC is hiring PR people, they're hiring communications directors, they're hiring oil and gas location assessment specialists with the intention of streamlining permitting. But they haven't put any money towards health and safety. They haven't put any money towards hiring scientists, towards hiring experts that understand these studies. So another instance where the COGCC is pushing through these permits without upholding the law. We've also had many experiences being down at the COGCC, standing up for community and protesting these permits, where the hearing officers that are making the decisions to approve or deny are telling us that they don't know what the rules are right now. They don't know what rules they're operating under. If it's the old rules pre-181, if it's the objective criteria, which is the standing law of the land, or if it's something else that they haven't even heard of yet. So there's so many issues with this process thus far. The COGCC needs to stop. There's no reason we should be pushing 30 permits a month through this process. There's no reason that we should be prioritizing industry profits over health and safety still. The law needs to be upheld. We are here to send that message to the director, to all of the commissioners today. Thank you guys all for being here. Thank you again to the youth. And let me know if you guys have any questions.
And we have one more youth speaker.
Oh, great.
Sorry, let me just pull my notes up. Environment and being on the cutting edge of addressing our climate crisis. While I've seen a commitment to these principles among Coloradans, I've also witnessed local frustration with government and regulatory agencies that seem to be ignoring the public's desire for a carbon-neutral future and the protection of our state's immense resources. I'm offering my public comment here today because I want Colorado to live up to its potential to lead the nation in transitioning to a livable future. In order to realize this future, we must begin by strictly regulating the oil and gas industry as we work to suspend our reliance on fossil fuels. With the passage of SB 181, we are shifting the rhetoric around oil and gas development in Colorado for the better. While we are currently a state that invites dangerous polluting practices such as fracking, the COGCC's new mission to regulate rather than foster the development of oil and gas resources is essential. However, the Commission doesn't seem to be complying with its new stated purpose. During the rulemaking process, it is the COGCC's duty to base its reasoning and conclusions on the rulemaking record, which includes the testimonies given here today, as well as the scientific data and facts accumulated, which resoundingly oppose further oil and gas development. By issuing permits during this process, the COGCC is acting in opposition to the spirit of these new regulations and actively ignoring both the public record and the reality that our energy future will not be defined by oil and gas, but rather renewable energy resources. The COGCC's new mission to regulate oil and gas development to protect public health, safety, and welfare and the environment is consistent with this new future. With the continual allotment of permits for oil and gas extraction, the COGCC is shirking its responsibility to protect the land and the people of Colorado, and is contributing to the climate crisis that is impacting all species on Earth. We know that the status quo of fracking and fossil fuel extraction is driven by profit. And if money is a language that must be used to inspire change, then I can talk that talk. SB 181 critically eliminates the consideration of industry cost expediencies when considering actions and decisions to minimize adverse impacts to communities and wildlife resources. This is critically important because the cost of remediation always outweighs proactive investments in safe and clean energy sources and welfare of communities. From drinking water contamination to the slow violence of exposure to toxic substances and air pollution, to habitat destruction and the disruption of ecosystem services, the long-term costs of fossil fuel development will dwarf any short-term profits. With this in mind, SB 181 is only a temporary compromise with the fossil fuel industry, but it is nonetheless a step toward Colorado's transition away from fossil fuels in the coming years, consistent with Governor Polis's 100% renewable energy by 2040 goal and the greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals laid out in HB 1261. Earlier today, the IPCC released a special report on the ocean and cryosphere, with an entire chapter devoted to the terrifying and disastrous impacts of our warming oceans and diminishing cryosphere on high mountain areas and their surrounding lowlands. How can Colorado continue to support the carbon-emitting practices that are actively harming our well-being? I want to see a COGCC that helps Colorado transition away from fossil fuels and implements the most protective rulemaking possible. While the rulemaking process is underway, we demand a pause on permits, because all actions from today on must be in accordance with the implementation of SB 181. Thank you for your time.
Yes.
I'm Morgan, anchor, with the Sunrise Movement.
Thank you so much. I want to have one more big round of applause for all of the youth who are standing up for their futures today, and they're calling on Governor Polis and the COGCC to stop fracking their futures. And I want to also thank all of the mothers and grandmothers and fathers and grandfathers who are here today too. We know that continuing to permit fracking is exacerbating the climate crisis and endangering public health and safety. It's time for Governor Polis and the COGCC to make a plan to rapidly phase out all oil and gas development in order to be good on our promises to do our part to transition off fossil fuels and address the climate crisis. We thank you for standing up today, everyone, and speaking out at the hearing today, and we encourage you to attend other Climate Strike Action events that are happening this week, and I'm going to quickly touch on what they are before we wrap up. So tomorrow there is the Boulder Climate Mobilization Action Plan launch. And all of this is on the website, by the way, at climatestrikeactionweek.co. Again, that's climatestrikeactionweek.co. So again, tomorrow in Boulder, Climate Mobilization Action Plan launch in Commerce City at the same time tomorrow night. At 5:30, there's going to be a shutdown Suncor action. The Suncor Energy Oil Refinery in Commerce City, just north of Denver, continues poisoning communities and contributing significantly to the climate crisis. We ask everybody to join us to demand that Colorado close the Suncor refinery, adopt a Green New Deal, convert to 100% renewable energy, and support a just transition for Suncor's workers and the communities most affected by its pollution. On Friday are our Defund Climate Disaster Day of Actions. Big banks like JP Morgan, Chase, and Wells Fargo are the #1 and #2 funders of dirty fossil fuel projects and countless human rights injustices around the world. Join us as we demand an end to the support of dangerous fossil fuel projects in our communities and demand climate justice. There will be an event happening in Denver on the 16th Street Mall at noon, and in Boulder meeting at the band shell at 11:30 and going across to the Chase Bank there. And then also, there's an action happening today, actually, a defund climate disaster action in Colorado Springs at 10 a.m. It happened. And then Saturday, there is a nonviolent direct action training in Boulder, again 11:30. And then Sunday, 4 to 7 p.m. is our finale. It's our Stop Fracking Our Future action in Broomfield, near the Wildgrass neighborhood that's been fighting the Extraction Corporation's fracking site on the open space, only about 1,000 feet from their community. This is going to be an exciting action to take a stand against neighborhood fracking and will help create a positive alternative vision for our future. There'll be live music, food, fun activities for all ages, so please spread the word. In addition, all week long there are light projections actions happening. There's one at the COGCC building this evening at 7:30. The meeting place is on the website if anybody wants to join. Thursday, tomorrow night, there is a Suncor action happening. Again, that meeting place is on the website in Commerce City. And then Saturday at the Extraction office, and the meeting at 7:30 also, the meeting place is on the website if you want to join in. And then all week long, you can check out the Red and Black Dress Project on the 16th Street Mall. Stand in solidarity with missing and murdered women and children who are victims of fracking and tar sands oil man camps, racist state systems, and mistreatment as migrants who are frequently climate refugees. Lastly, again, just the website if you want to join any of these actions, RSVP, share it with your friends, is climatestrikeactionweek.co. And again, we thank you all so much for being here today. Let's give one last round of applause for our youth. Thank you.